Yeah.
With that, we need to be sure we turn off our iPhones and whatever electrical devices you might have. Called meeting to order of the City of Atwater City Council, May 12th, 2014 at 6:02. Please check to be sure that all of your cell phones are turned off. And with that, we will have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilman Bergman and remain standing for the invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come before you this evening with a humble and contrite hearts. Father, we know that you are the giver of all wisdom and all blessing and grace. Father, we are thankful for the ability to serve you and to serve our community and our country. Father, we are thankful for the many blessings you've given us. The blessing of freedom, the blessing to serve others, Lord, and most of all, the blessing of life. Father, we come before you and ask you to pour out your Holy Spirit upon us this evening. Again, Lord, we ask that you would guide us and protect us. Help us to make the decisions that bring glory and praise to you. And most of all, Lord, that as we make decisions, we make them for the best of the community and, Lord, for our neighbor. Lord, we thank you for all the staff that works here in the city and for our first responders and for all the volunteers that make our city one that people want to come and live in and participate in. And Lord, we ask that you would continue to be with us and guide us and protect us. And we ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. Roll call.
Bergman,
Here.
Mooneyham,
Here.
Jeff Rivero, Joe Rivero,
Here.
Fall.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you all for coming this evening. Okay. Go ahead, please. The city clerk.
We have a subsequent need item that came to the city's attention after the posting of the agenda. We have a request for God Belongs in My City actual prayer walk for May 24th, beginning at 10 a.m. at Veterans Park and ending at City Hall.
I think each of you should have the request in front of you. So we need, this is considered an emergency because we have to approve this because the walk is on the 24th and our next meeting is on the 27th. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to include this.
So moved.
Councilman Bergman,
I'll second it.
just a
No, that's
minute.
okay.
Councilman Bergman has
No,
the
that's
floor.
okay. I was going to make the motion, but Councilman Joe Rivera made it ahead, so go ahead.
Okay, well,
I'll withdraw.
be sure to go through the chair,
Thank you.
gentlemen. Okay, so Councilman Joe Rivera,
Yes, so moved.
okay,
Second.
seconded by Councilman Jeff Rivera. Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Joe Rivera, seconded by Councilman Jeff Rivera. Call for the question.
Joe Rivera.
Yes.
Mooneyham.
Yes.
Jeff Rivera.
Yes.
Bergman.
Yes.
Fall.
Yes.
Motion carries.
City Clerk, where will this appear on the agenda?
We can put it on petitions and communications after the consent calendar.
Okay. And so what item will that be?
It'll be 6.
6?
Just remember.
Yeah. And everything else will just move down.
Next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda as posted or as amended. Councilman Joe Bergman,
Move to approve the agenda with this new item 6 added.
okay. I'll
Second.
Moved by Councilman Bergman to approve the agenda, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Mooneyham. Any further discussion? Call for the question.
Joe Rivera.
Yes.
Mooneyham.
Yes.
Bergman.
Yes.
Jeff Rivera.
Yes.
Fall.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Oh, pardon me, thank you. Report out of the closed session. There was no reportable action taken. Staff was given direction. Next item on the agenda is certificates and presentations, and we're going to move the proclamation for National Public Works Week down to the end after certificates.
As soon as you get down.
Okay. City Manager, would you please come forward? And would the Tanzillo family please come forward? I just want to introduce you to the Michael Tanzillo Jr. family. And I would like to have them introduce themselves, and then we will go from there. I'll start on the end with my wonderful friend, Mrs. Tanzillo. And would you, and just pass it down and introduce yourself, please.
I'm Barb Tanzillo. I'm Michael's daughter-in-law.
I am Chris Hensel. I am Michael's grandson.
I'm Vanessa Romo, soon to be granddaughter-in-law.
I'm Julie Tanzillo. I'm Michael's daughter.
Ellen Tanzillo, Michael's wife.
Emily Tanzillo, Michael's daughter.
Mark Tanzillo, son.
Cliff McGee, son-in-law.
Pass it down to our city manager.
Frank Petro, good friends of this wonderful family.
I really appreciate the Tanzillos coming this evening. The Tanzillos have been a part of our community for about 49 years. 49 years. And so I just really felt, and I appreciate you all coming to honor our friend Michael. Mike and I were on the Parks and Recreation Commission together. If you can imagine, Michael Tanzillo, he was about as tall as his son over there, and we had a wild time. We were on Parks and Recreation, and every time we came to the council just shook when they saw the Parks and Recreation Committee coming in, led by Michael Tanzillo, followed by Ms. Fall, followed by the little ladies. And so we had such a wonderful time, but Mike has just contributed to our community. He served in the service for over 30 years, ended up as a colonel, served in his church, and he served as his community on the Parks and Recreation, and he was the mayor of the First and Juniper, and he usually got the flooding at First and Juniper. So but he contributed so much to our community that I just really wanted to thank him, and we adjourned our meeting on April 28, 2014, in memory of Michael Tanzillo Jr. And I can't think of a better person to honor, and we can't thank you all enough for coming. And I know Mike's up there smiling at us, and, Miss Fall. And anyway, I remember one thing that he loved to say, and it was a park that we have, and he named it another name, and so we'll just leave it at that. But anyway, Mike was such a wonderful man. So on behalf of the city and behalf of this, we want to thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it.
He couldn't be prouder than receiving it from you.
Oh, I tell you, he was such a wonderful person. And thank you for coming, and all of you. Would you like to say something? Any of you? Do you? No. I didn't. We just say thank you. Thank you.
We're very thankful.
Okay. Mr. Ferreira, would you please come forward? Mr. Ferretta, if you do not know, is our interim Public Works Director. And Mr. Ferretta, how long have you been on the duty as the interim Public Works Director?
Ms. Fall, about 35 days now, roughly.
35 days. Well, very good, and you're still standing, and that's wonderful. We have a proclamation. Probably the most important people that we have in the city is the Public Works Group. They keep us together. We all work together in the city of Atwater. That's how we have lasted. That's how we're still together, is teamwork. Well, one of the greatest underpinning people that we have is our Public Works group. And we have a proclamation, National Public Works Week, May 18th through the 24th of 2014. And the reason it was started was to educate the people on what the public works people do and call attention to the importance of the public works in the community life. The week is to enhance the prestige and often unsung heroes of our society and the professionals who serve the public good every day with quiet dedication. And they serve 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. So we must remember that. The American Public Works Association seeks to raise the public awareness on the public works issues and increase the confidence in public works employees who are dedicated to improving the quality of the life for the present and the future. And that's one thing. I mean, our group is such a dedicated group. The Public Works accomplishments are particularly noteworthy in relationship to manpower and the finance resources available to them. Especially now, we are really reduced very much in public works, but that doesn't keep them from getting out there and getting the job done. And we really, really appreciate that. Atwater is very fortunate to have public works personnel who are dedicated to keeping our community running smoothly and who are our frontline contact with our citizens and who work above and beyond to meet the needs of the city. Therefore, I, Carol Joan Fall, Mayor of the City of Atwater, do hereby proclaim the week of May 18th through the 24th as the National Public Works Week. The City of Atwater, and I call upon all citizens and civic organizations to recognize the contribution of the public works personnel to make to our health, safety, comfort, and quality in Atwater. We commend the hard work performed by our public works personnel and thank them for their dedication to our beautiful city. And I want you to thank them, and I really, they're my folks, so you wish them well for me.
I will do that, Mayor, and I do want to thank the mayor and the rest of the city council for recognizing the folks out at Public Works. I come from the Parks and Recreation background and did not really know until I've spent some time out there over the last 30 days or so, just how much goes on in the Public Works Department, the members of the Streets Department, Building Maintenance, Fleet Maintenance, Sewer Department. They do a wonderful job for this community. They've learned to adapt with being with our budget cuts and being short-staffed over the past 3 years or so, and they are a very, very dedicated and hardworking group, and I do commend them as well for the job that they perform day in and day out for the city of Atwater.
Thank you, Mr. Peretta.
Thank you, Mayor.
And thank them very much for me. Comments from the public. At this time, any person may comment on any item which is not on the agenda. Please state your name and address for the record. Action will not be taken on an item that is not on the agenda. If it requires action, it will be referred to staff and placed on a future agenda item. To comment on an item that's on the agenda, please wait till that item is read for, and then for consideration, and then please come around to the back and stand so I know that you wish to speak on that item. Please state your name and address, and you have a maximum of 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Jim Price, 3467 Village Woods. Madam Mayor, City Council members, ladies and gentlemen. Just wanted to make a public announcement tonight. The local Atwater Merced Tea Party again is holding their third debate. It'll be this Thursday again at Memorial Hall, 5th and Broadway. The time of the debate will begin at 6:30. However, I highly recommend that anybody that would like to come get and confirmed at this time is Johnny Teixeira, Mel Levy, Steve Crass, and Joanna Botello, and tomorrow possibly Jim Costa. We'll see. One of the things that's been kind of disconcerting about all this is that Mr. Costa, although his signs say he's one of us, he has been saying he respectfully declines. So we're going to try one more time tomorrow. As I say, get there early because the place does fill up rather quickly. Again, this is a year of elections. One of the things that our group plans to do between now and November is to have speakers by the name of Jim and Ruth Gardner come and talk about voter fraud. One of the things that, for those that get absentee ballots, you know that your absentee ballot is here now. at your home and you're going to send it in. One of the things that we found out from previous briefings from the gardeners is that the signature cards that you have that are at the county registrar of voters, that signature over time, old age creeps up on all of us and it changes. And when your absentee ballot goes in, and if it's not correct, according to your signature matching up to the card, they'll toss it. So I highly recommend anybody, of course it's too late now, but when you have the chance to go and re-sign a signature card so that your vote does count. And lastly, I wanted to make note that this past Thursday, for those that didn't know, was the 69th anniversary of VE Day. And I noticed that I didn't see any media coverage hardly at all on this. As a matter of fact, I didn't see any. So I just want to personally say to those, one of the gentlemen in our community, Mr. Ted Brodowski, for his service to the country. He was a World War II vet, and to all other World War II vets that may be in our community and may be hearing tonight, thank you very much for your service. Thank you.
And his wife was a World War II.
I just had a question.
Pardon me.
Okay. I had. I placed.
Did you have a question?
Yeah. Before I walked away, what was the time on that? Because I didn't catch that.
6:30.
6:30. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry. Come forward, please.
Yes, I'd like to congratulate or more.
Could you identify yourself?
My name is Alma Bailey, and I'm from Atwater, of course.
Thank you.
And I had a major heart attack in January, and I want to honor the police, the fire department, and the ambulance. They came immediately. According to the doctor, if they hadn't gotten me there on time, I would not have made it. They also started a procedure in the ambulance, made me just feel so relaxed that I had no problem with anything they were doing. And I know that sometimes people criticize other people, and I think that our police department, fire department, and our ambulance are doing a great job if they treated everyone like they treated me.
Thank you.
That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much, and thank you for coming forward. Is there anyone else who wishes to come forward? Seeing none, we will move on then to the consent calendar. The consent calendar is background information has been provided on all matters listed under the consent calendar, and these items are considered to be routine. All items under the consent calendar are approved normally by one motion. If the discussion is requested on any item, that item will be removed from the consent calendar and discussed for separate action. I would like to pull item number 5 for separate action. Is there anyone else on the council who wishes to pull an item for separate action? I'll entertain a motion to approve the remaining of the consent calendar. Councilman Jeff Rivero.
Also move that motion.
Okay,
Second.
Moved by to approve the remaining consent calendar, and that was seconded by Mr. Bergman, Councilman Bergman. Is there any other discussion? Call for the question.
Jeff Rivero,
Yes.
Joe Rivero,
Yes.
Bergman,
Yes.
Mooneyham,
Yes.
Fall.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Do we have anyone from the Pentecostal, the festive group? Okay, we have, I'm going to turn it over to our city manager, police chief, to discuss this matter.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Members of the council, I contacted Carol today in regards to the return route. I asked Carol if we could defer from going back down Witten Way and just proceeding down Juniper to Fifth to Grove, and Grove into the park. She was quite happy with that route. As you know, the first route, when they're coming to the church, we block off Witten Way, and we wanted to make it a little bit easier for them on their return route. So I just want the council to know that we've changed the return route. Juniper to Fifth to Grove, and then into the park.
Okay.
Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of the chief? I'll entertain a motion to approve the item.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Joe Rivero,
Second.
seconded by Councilman Larry Bergman. Councilman Jeff Rivero? Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Call for the question.
Joe Rivero,
Yes.
Mooneyham,
Yes.
Jeff Rivero,
Yes.
Bergman,
Yes.
Fall.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Item number 6? Oh, okay. Item number 6, this is our new one. And, okay, this is the approval of the prayer walk, and that's going to be on May 24th, and it's going to start at 10 a.m. at Veterans Park and end at City Hall. And it will have they're requesting a police escort. And is there anyone from the prayer walk that's with us tonight? Okay, I'm going to kind of turn it over to the chief and let him carry on with it.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Members of the council, as we did last year, the prayer walk will start on Saturday at 10 o'clock, the 24th. Proceed down Bellevue. They will have the cadets and the police volunteers escorting them as we did last year. They will be in our back section for about 2 or 3 hours, where myself and Councilman Jeff Rivera will be cooking some hot dogs or hamburgers for them. This was a huge success last year, and it's going to get bigger and bigger every year. I believe they had a couple hundred people out here last year, and it looks like it's going to be bigger this year. So we have enough police to assist with the escort, along with volunteers and the cadets. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of the chief? Councilman Larry Bergman?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to confirm, there will be no additional cost for the escort?
Correct.
Okay, then I would like to go ahead and make the motion to approve the request.
Okay, motion to approve the request for May 24th. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Second the motion is Jeff Rivero. Any further questions? Call for the question.
Jeff Rivero,
Yes.
Joe Rivero,
Yes.
Bergman,
Yes.
Mooneyham,
Yes.
Fall.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item number 7, and that is a public hearing, and that's the 2014 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant Program application. And is that Mr. No.
No.
It would be the chief?
Sure. Madam Mayor, members of the council, as we've done for the last 9 years, it's time again to apply for the Edward Burns Memorial Justice Assistance Grant. This year, it's $11,558 with no matching. We've been with the Edward Burns Memorial Society for the last about the last 8 years. So this year, again, when it comes up, we're asking for some computers in a patrol room that are about 11 years old. We're asking for a ballistic shield, which we could have used a couple times in some emergency situations. And that will take up most of the $11,000 for the computers. Some other computer equipment to help us with our TrackNet system, which is our computer-based system for our computer-aided dispatch, and the management system. I'll be happy to answer any questions. There is no match. It's 100% funded.
Okay. Any questions of the chief? Councilman Jeff Favero?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number 2757-14.
I'm sorry, my apologies. You have to withdraw your motion at the present time.
Okay,
I
well-
forgot to open up the public hearing.
I'll withdraw it.
Okay, yeah. Now is the time that we open up the public hearing. This is the time in which people may come forward and testify either for or against this. And basically, the public hearing in regards to this matter is that they would like to have the public maybe make some suggestions as what they might suggest for things that we could apply for. So that was, so this is time for the public hearing. So if there's anyone in the public who wishes to come forward and speak on this matter, please, now is the time to do so. Seeing none, we will close the public hearing, bring it back to the dais, and now, Mr. Jeff Favero, Councilman Jeff Favero.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number 2757-14.
Second.
Second. Okay, moved by Jeff Favero and seconded by Councilman Joe Rivero. Is there any further discussion? Call for the question.
Bergman,
Yes.
Jeff Rivero,
Yes.
Mooneyham,
Yes.
Joe Rivero.
Yes.
Fall,
Yes.
motion carries.
If you notice, Councilman, that we had to renumber the item, so that was item number 7 that we just completed, and now we're moving to item number 8. This is the city attorney's report. This is a discussion regarding placing of the measure, a measure on the November 4th, 2014 ballot, establishing term limits for the offices of mayor and city council members. City Attorney Terpstra.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. As the staff report indicates, the government code does allow for a measure to be submitted to the city's voters to establish term limits in one of two ways, either by initiative of the voters themselves with enough signatures or as a council-initiated measure that would then be placed before the voters. And we are looking for direction as staff. This has been discussed before at council meeting. We're looking for direction as staff as to whether to bring back a proposed ballot measure for the November 4th election to establish term limits for the mayor and city council members, and then if the direction is to go in that way, then also to indicate the number of consecutive terms that the mayor and council members can serve, whether partial terms count, and if so, under what circumstances, and then if there is to be a break between terms or whether an absolute limit would apply. As we note in the staff report, after reviewing the policies of other cities, we've noticed that most term limit measures consist of 2 or 3 consecutive terms. Some cities have a break between where you can serve 2 or 3 terms and then have a break and then come back on the council, but most do not. Most contain an absolute limit. And so the decisions for the council are then, should we go forward with this sort of a measure and let the voters decide on it? And if so, is there a limit on the number of terms that you would want to have? Would it be 2 terms, 3 terms, 1 term? And keeping in mind that under the government code, this can only go forward prospectively. In other words, each of the council members on the dais tonight the previous terms that they have served would not count towards their term limits. So that if the measure is approved in November, everybody starts at 0. And so it would only apply prospectively. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have about this, and then we'll take direction from the council.
I have Councilman Larry Bergman.
Thank you, Mayor. If you remember this, I brought this up a couple months ago. I was approached by citizens regarding this issue, and they knew I felt the same way. I was contacted by just over 30 of our citizens, 32 to be exact. Of those 32 citizens, we had 1 that was not in favor of term limits, 2 that had neutral opinions, they hadn't decided. The rest of the citizens were in full support of this measure. I truly feel that anybody that is voted on when they run for a position, they have an agenda, they have a goal. Well, in my opinion, 12 years is ample time for anybody to accomplish their goal or agenda. If it can't be done in 12 years, in my opinion, it's either unattainable or just not in the cards. In talking to the individuals that were in favor, they felt the same as I did, that in the area of 3 terms would be plenty of time, as in, like I said, the 12 years. So that's why I brought it up. I do support it. The majority of the citizens that spoke up do support it. In terms of consecutive term, or the terms and that, my idea of my motion will be, when it comes to that we just put it in as a 12-year maximum, combined city council, mayor. We can add 3 terms, but just a 12-year max. The only individuals that may affect, if we're still on the council, in my opinion, would be myself and Councilman Joe Rivero. If this were to pass, we would be midterm. So after 2 consecutive terms, we would be at 10 years. We would be limited to 10 years, and that way that would be the only thing that would affect this. And I basically patterned this after our legislature, and I took it after the way the state does. They have 12 years, combined Senate and House. So that's why I kind of went with the 12 years. And if you'll remember, a few years back, Arnold Schwarzenegger was elected midterm. He finished that term. He had 1 more. He was done at 6 years. That's why it's precedent has kind of been set there, and that's why I'm looking at a 12-year max.
Councilman Jeff Rivero.
Yes, the doctor in the room, there's only had 3 people serve in the last 20 plus years of 3 terms. That was, as far as I know, Andy Krodick, Rudy Trevino, and Gary Frago. Of those 3 people, only one of them tried to go to a 4th term, and people voted him out. I believe that every 4 years is an election year. It's a term limit. If the people feel you've done a good job, they'll re-elect you. If the people feel that you didn't do your job correctly, they will not re-elect you. There are so many cases where the government adds more and more restrictions on us. I don't want to add any more restrictions on my people. I'm tired of restrictions. Let the people vote the way they want to. I don't believe in telling people, no, you can only vote for this amount of years or these people. If somebody's done a great job, like a principal, like a police chief, like a fire chief, and they've done 12 years, I want them to do 12 more for my town. If a council member or whoever has done an excellent job, I want them to continue doing the excellent service that they've done. But the most disturbing thing to me is, why at this time? All of Atwater's employees took a pay cut and reductions to help the city achieve the levels of service that we currently have. Measure H restored the police pay, but we still have employees in Public Works, Finance Department, Parks and Rec, and other departments have had none of their salaries restored. Heck, all it would take is one unforeseen situation, and the city might not have its numbers in the black. It could go in the red. So the last thing that I want to do is take thousands and thousands in people's time and put it into this issue. Not at this time. So I would like to make a motion that we table this item until the budget of 2015-16 has been approved. I would hate to see any employees being told that we don't have the money to pay you, and also telling our citizens that we don't have the money to open up this front door on a Friday to get them their services, but we'll turn around and spend thousands of dollars on this issue that there's no monster in the room. We could wait until 2015-16 to look at this. But our financial records right now says we need to be as prudent as possible. If this measure saved the city money, I wouldn't mind looking over it. This doesn't save the city money. It just spends thousands and thousands of our citizens' tax dollars, and it takes away some of their choice. So I can't be in favor of moving for this, so I'd like, once again, to table it into 2015-16. That's what my motion is.
Do we have a second?
Madam Mayor,
Yes,
just
City Attorney.
Just a suggestion that this is an agenda item, and the public is entitled to comment on it.
Right.
Maybe wait for a second until after we have a opportunity for public comment, and
Okay.
then if Mr. Rivero agrees, he can make his motion at that time.
Let me, okay, and the thing is, he made a motion, he's got a motion on the floor, and I have Mr. Bergman who wishes to comment. So what procedures do you wish for me to follow? Recognize
Well,
Mr. Bergman?
If we could ask the Councilmember Rivero to temporarily table his motion so that we can get comment and then get comment from the public. I think maybe before the council tries to round out and figure out which direction to go, let's take public comment and then close that period and then bring it back to the dais for further action, if that's okay with the council members.
Fine with me.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay, so you're going to withdraw your motion at this time, sir?
I'll table it until we're
Table it
done with
till,
the...
okay. Okay, so, now, do I recognize Mr. Bergman, since he's, before I go to...
I would ask to withhold my comments till after public comment.
Hold your, thank you, Mr. Bergman. Okay, the public, please come forward and speak on this item if you would like.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, Jim Price, 3467 Village Woods. I spoke once before on this, and I will reiterate my support for this, for term limits. Government restriction, I heard Jeff mention that. I too am against government restriction, but in this case, this is citizen restriction. By not allowing the citizens to have a say-so in how this government will function or could function, I think is a shortcoming to allowing the process for the citizens to have their say in it. You also mentioned police, fire, salaries for other departments and this sort of thing. Nobody likes that either, but it has nothing to do with this. It's not germane to the subject. We're talking about limiting the terms of council members and mayors. And I, for one, came up here for several years, and made comments about the pay and benefits for council members. And it fell, to me, on deaf ears. It just continued to go on, and to me, this is part of what will remedy those situations. As Councilmember Bergman said, when somebody comes to become an elected official, they come with ideas, with an agenda, if you will. And to me, these agendas are now stagnant. Mayor Fall, you've been on the council here a number of years as well. And, this is not a personal thing, but this is a city thing to allow for new ideas, for fresh ideas, and that comes by way of having to limit those terms now. I agree that terms are dictated at the elections, but in our case here, having gone through almost bankruptcy and other things that have brought the city down to a level that it shouldn't be, then it got to come to a point to where we say, we've got to take care of this ourselves if we can't allow the council members to do it, and come with those ideas that are going to rectify these things. So I wholeheartedly support the idea, the concept of term limits. Merced seems to work okay with theirs, and I think the other cities work okay with theirs as well. I will hope that this will be placed on the ballot so the citizens of this town will be able to have a voice in how their government runs. Thank you.
Thank you. Signs?
Adela Sains, 713 Sneed Court. We need and want the limits on the council. And we want it to be put on the measure put on the November 4th ballot. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else out that would like to speak?
Hi, Wayne Wallace, 1653 Van Terrace. I'm going to dig back in history a little bit. Probably some of you young people won't recognize the name, but there was a Don Robertson in Merced.
Oh, yes.
And several years ago, I hate to think how many I run for city council. This very thing was on the mind of everybody. And Don Robertson was one of those people that Cali could foresee things, and he wanted things to happen. He wanted term limits because people would not vote off the people that's in because they know the name. And you have to have new people. And I just thought I'd give you a little history there for food. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Bill Barkman, 16 Castlewood. There's five things I'll quickly address here. Number one, I have a question. Approximately how much would a process of adding this to the November election cost?
Can you answer that? That's a question I wanted to ask.
We, as staff, it's difficult to get real exact on this, but we do
Like
have a fiscal
ballpark.
impact section in the staff report that we allocate approximately $5,000 to be included in the 2014-15 budget for the ballot measure, and then there would be some additional services from my office, about $2,500 to prepare the ballot, the impartial analysis, the ordinances and resolutions that are necessary. So you're talking about somewhere between $5,000 and $7,500.
And if things go a little awry, maybe 10 at max.
We'll see. Sometimes
than
there are pre-election challenges to these. They're rare, but it could happen.
But it's not tens of thousands of dollars.
I wouldn't think so. This is a fairly straightforward matter.
Before you go again, Mr. Joe Rivera has a question, and then I'll...
Yes, I had a question of the city attorney. We had a special election, and it wasn't $5,000, it wasn't $10,000, it wasn't $20,000. It came out to...
70.
What?
70.
I mean, it was a lot of $70,000. So
I think
I'm
the
hearing
one you're-
very low numbers, which I think the county is the one that charges us, and they charge. Did they overcharge us by a lot then, or
No, you're talking apples and oranges. You're talking about a special election in not as part of a general election. And when you have a special election, there are considerably greater costs as part of that. This is part of the November ballot, and it has to be as part of a general ballot. So that's why there's a difference.
Thank
Go ahead,
you.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay. My wife does it all the time. This issue is not about restricting the vote of the people. It's about dealing with the potential for career politicians, people who want the title and not the opportunity to be statesmen. Atwater, I do disagree. This is not going to put Atwater in the red. Atwater is already millions of dollars in the red, negative cash flow. We're not taking anybody's vote away. And from the people that I know and my knowledge, this community may adopt the choice and that you not take their vote away from them. Because essentially there's enough upsetness out in the public that if you don't take action on this, there are people in this community who will. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak before we continue on? This doesn't mean that you won't be able to speak again, but at this time, yes, sir.
Well, Mayor, just to clarify, we do take public comment, but then we, just to avoid a lot of back and forth, we would close the public comment period and then allow the council to deliberate at this time. I think that's the typical way we would handle this.
Okay, so we're closing the public comment now.
Correct.
Okay, and with the public comment, and then, so there is no more public comment in regards to this matter. Is that correct?
Because that's correct, because you do have a motion that has been made, and I
That's
want to
correct.
allow an opportunity for a second, and then if we have public comment after that, it becomes very jumbled. So
I
let's allow the motion to go
Okay.
and see if there is a second to the motion, and then
Okay.
we can take action. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have a motion, Mr. Jeff Rivera, Councilman Jeff Rivera. Your tabled motion is now back on.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So,
May you repeat the motion? Just
go ahead and repeat the motion, Mr. Jeff Rivera.
Made a motion to table this item until the budget for 2015-16 has been approved.
Okay.
Well, I'll second it for discussion.
Seconded by Mr. Joe Rivero.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Joe Rivero.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I heard some things here tonight from members of the public, and I heard one say that in Merced, one fellow's opinion is the people didn't vote for the right person that he wanted, so let's put on term limits, basically. So they went ahead because the people weren't voting what individuals wanted, so let's limit those terms so we'll get our way. To me, that sounds like you're disgruntled with the overall public of what they've decided. Let's see. The other thing is there's a golden opportunity for people to vote for this. There's two ways. The council can go ahead, put up the money and do it, or if there's really this outcry, and I believe in the public making the decision. If there's really the outcry, then there should be no problem to go out and get all the signatures to say, hey, we need term limits. So there's two things there. It's not denying, if this council says, no, we're not going to do this and support it, that if there truly is, and I've talked to a lot of people too, and I've heard special interest groups say, oh, I don't like the way things are going because we don't like the decision that the people have made. Well, that might be, but you know what? It's the decision of our government. We should be proud that we have this form of government that the people have decided. Now, there's people that are elected that I don't think should be elected. But I'm not going to go out and say, you know what, we got to put a term limit on you because I don't like you. That is the decision that the people have made. And I think that one of the greatest powers we have as a people is the ability to vote. People have fought for it, have suffered for it, and died for it. The issue has suddenly surfaced that talks term limits for the city council. It doesn't name any other positions. No other positions are named, just city council members. Now, we have a treasurer that's been elected over 40 years, one of the longest in the entire state, 40 terms. And I think that's wonderful. The people of Atwater have decided, you know, time and time again, we trust him, we like him, and we don't need to force him out just to bring somebody else in. Okay. Every time he has run, there's a potential for a term limit for him. We have the right to vote him out. And it's the right of everybody, not a select group saying, no, we don't like him, we don't like the way everybody's voted, so let's put a term limit on him. And I don't see this happening for everybody. So this shows that this decision, what's being talked about right now, is not a vote for philosophical beliefs. Rather, it's a vote for a political agenda of special interests who have a disagreement with the majority of the residents and their selection of the outcomes of these elections. Now, if you go back, and Lyndon B. Johnson said, no law we now have on the books can ensure the right to vote when local officials are determined to deny it. If the actions taken by this council are to support special interests and impose limits, it will erode the community's rights. It will tear the fabric of our freedoms of choice by denying the residents of the community the ability to vote for anyone they believe may be the best to represent them, and limit the choice for whom they wish to cast their ever-precious ballots for. And so, for that reason, it's like, no, I'm for the general public, let everybody vote, let them decide on. If there's a special interest group that doesn't like what's happening, then they have the right to go out, and they have that right. And more power to them. Get the signatures, put it on the ballot, have it passed. And as Mr. Bergman said, it doesn't really affect any of us here. I don't plan on being here 12 or another 10 more years. So, but it's going to affect the future, and the future of who maybe I want to vote for, and the future of anybody else want to vote for. So you have to be careful, because sometimes someone once told me, be careful. Well, I'm not even going to go there, but about cutting off your nose to spite your own face, because sometimes it comes back to bite you. So I believe in letting our freedoms and our freedom of choice and letting the public decide stand tall. So I will not support a special interest group. If the general public puts it on the ballot, then hey, more power to us, freedom of the people.
Thank you. Councilman Bergman?
No, thank you, Mayor. I'm going to speak from the heart. I'm not going to read a scripted. He provides information. This has to do with the decision makers of this city. And both you individuals did say that the people have a right to vote what they want. The people that have spoken in favor of term limits. So they have the opportunity, and they should have the say-so of what this council is made up of, how it's made up, and how long it lasts. It is the decision of the people. You're absolutely right.
Right.
And, and the issue before was made up, the issue, this is going to cost thousands and thousands of dollars. That hit me, you said thousands and thousands.
Okay, let's,
And, well,
It's thousands.
the thing that really frustrates me, this comes from a side that had no issue 3 years ago spending a wasteful $7,700 to repaint a fire engine that was already painted because that's what they wanted. Not the public, that's what they wanted. So it really irritates me to bring up money and issues at this point. This is a minor amount of money, but we're doing what the citizens want. The citizens deserve it. So that's why I am not going to support this current.
okay, Mr. Jeff Rivero.
Yes, well, Mr. Bergman and I were both at the Audit and Finance Committee, and 7,500 or 10,000, whatever the number may be, is a large majority of the chunk of what we have in the black. So you're taking a chunk out of what we have in the black for something that I didn't say throw it away. I said bring it back and discuss it in 2015-16 when the coffers are a little bit better, or hopefully there's more money there. Because I'd really hate to let somebody go, or our employees gave up a lot to keep this city afloat. Everybody did. And for us to spend it at this time, I just don't think is prudent. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Joe Rivero?
Yes, I just have one more point. The State Controller's Office sent a letter that I received too, talking about the general fund that some of us have been mentioning year after year about doing something about. And yet special interest, for some reason, we don't want to reduce the general fund, but we're going to divert attention to term limits. That's not really going to affect anybody up here. But it's going to affect the people in the future. So I think there are priorities that need to get straight. I mean, if the state controller is even mentioning, that has been mentioned time and time again about the general fund deficit, then it's time that this council needs to take action to do something creative and constructive instead of try to sideline us all with these type of issues.
Councilman Jeff Rivero?
Yes, I wanted to bring up about our fire truck that was ordered by CAL FIRE. The city has always had yellow trucks, and they were trying to keep it as far as we were told, so you could shake your head no, but that's what we were told. The truck was ordered in red, and it was, if I remember correctly, our minutes on that said that they wanted to have the black cabin and red back.
Gentlemen, we're getting off the subject on this. We're not discussing the color of the fire truck, so let's get us back to where we're at. And so I have Mr. Councilman Bergman.
Mayor, we can go back and forth on this all night.
Absolutely.
And I think both sides have been discussed. At this point, I would like to call for the question.
City Attorney, can we call for the question?
That's within the chair's authority to call for the question at this time.
Or is that, call for the question?
Mooneyham?
You reread the motion, please.
Repeat the motion, yes, I'm sorry.
The motion is to table this item until the 2015-16 budget has been approved.
No.
Joe Rivero?
You can table it as long as you want, but I will never support something that reduces the people's rights. And I'm going to vote yes, I'm going to vote no to even tabling it. I don't believe in this at all. So I'm just, no.
Bergman?
No.
Jeff Rivero?
Yes.
Fall?
No.
Motion fails.
Mr. Larry Bergman, Councilman Larry Bergman, my apologies.
Thank you, Mayor. I just don't see how we're limiting the public. We're giving them the opportunity. So I want to make a motion that we bring a measure back that this go forward with a 12-year maximum. You can say 3 terms if you want, but I think 12-year maximum will encompass all of it, combination city council, mayor. Will that encompass the?
City Attorney, could you please restate that motion, and the clerk, so we make sure we're correct on this?
I think we have direction that at least the motion as made would limit the total number of years that could be served to 12. That would include partial terms and full terms. I understand that the motion does not include any gap between times of service.
Right.
It's just a total of 12 years per that individual whenever they happen to be elected or appointed. And then that this includes mayor and approved. Staff would bring back a city-initiated ballot measure for approval by the city council to submit to the voters in the November 5th general election.
See, City Attorney, that covers the areas.
That covers all of the areas
of concern that you had.
That covers the areas in which staff was looking for input from the
Okay,
council.
that's what I want to know. And I'll second that, plus I'll recognize Joe Rivero.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a question to the city attorney. I've never heard of any city that had a position where a council member, when they served, couldn't run for mayor, that it became like a separate position. I mean, could you bring me back something that shows that if someone serves, no matter what, whether it's 4 years or 8 years, where the council member doesn't run for mayor?
Right. We can certainly look at that and bring that back as part of our analysis of the measure as proposed.
Because I thought that was one of the reasons why a lot of times council members ran, so they gain more experience then to lead the city.
I understand, and we'll look at that.
Okay,
thank you.
And then, okay, that was Joe Rivero. I will now recognize Councilman Jeff Rivero.
I was going to ask Mr. Terpstra, so if this was put on the November ballot, it would not take effect technically for 12 years because the person would be able to serve 12 years? So we would be voting something in 6 months and telling people 12 years down the line what can happen?
Yeah, it's the only way to do it. There is no other way to do it because it can only apply prospectively. If you decided that you wanted to limit council members to 2 terms, then it would be 8 years maximum, or 4 plus 2. Or whatever an unexpired term would be. But yeah, you're correct. That's the only way that you can do this. And I think Councilmember Bergman did the math correctly. Both Councilmembers Bergman and Rivero, Joe Rivero, would be limited to the 10, and the others would be 12. So,
thank you.
Yeah.
Councilman Larry Bergman, followed by Councilman Joe Rivero.
Well, thank you, Mayor. But before I make a comment, there is a motion on the floor that I think needs a second before we can continue.
I seconded
You
it.
did second? Well, I apologize. Councilman Joe Rivero brought up a point. I just made this just 12-year max combined. I think the city of Merced, the way they have it set up, that city council can run for 8 years. Mr. Price, you can answer this. Your partner works with city council.
Sir, do not ask go out and ask the council.
I'm just asking for clarification that somebody knows.
Stay within here, please.
I apologize. I
Thank
believe
you.
Merced City Council, they're allowed to run 2 terms as city council and 2 2-year terms as mayor, which is a total of 12 years. That's why I'm
that's
making
correct.
12 years combined.
Okay. Okay, Councilman Joe Rivero.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There was one other thing, too, I'd asked for. I think 3 meetings ago about placing on the ballot. Something that people were really interested in is the amount of fees or amount of contributions that can be given to a city council member. I believe that city attorney mentioned there's something similar in the city of Modesto to prevent special interests from taking over, so that it'd have to be listed by council members can take all sorts of money. And when they put their campaigns ads, they don't have to say, well, I got it from this, that, or the other person. Now, if you wish to come down to the city, you can look that up, but most people don't. So I'd like to, once again, state this to be brought back. And I thought this was something, too, that was of interest to people, about amount of funds being donated to council members and the special interest that's there.
Well, that's,
So I'm just saying that this is related to this, and so I'm wondering why. Was this being blackballed or something? Because I had asked for this several meetings back. Anyway.
do you want to answer that, or did you want me to? Sir, as far as I know, on a campaign, you have to reveal, on your 700 form,
Exactly.
you have to reveal all of your donations. And if they're under $99, then you don't have to state the name. But if they're $100 or more, you have to list the people who gave you the money.
You're correct.
Now, that is not true for the people up above us.
Right.
But here in this city, that's the way it works, is that you have to, like if, they have to state that there can be no large amounts of money given without specific amounts listed. That's,
We're correct.
is that correct?
That's correct.
Sir?
No, I think you're right. I think I'm not sure how it relates to this motion, but we can, and I have spoken about this with Councilmember Rivera before this meeting even, that looking at other communities that have campaign limits, we're not talking about disclosing necessarily who the contributors are. That's pretty much a matter of state law. But the city of Modesto, for one example, has an ordinance that limits campaign contributions at the local level, and cities can look at that. It's not the same thing as what we're talking about tonight, but it's somewhat related, and I understand this point, and we can bring back information on that. We also heard at one recent council meeting something about district elections. It's always interesting as we get closer to election time that people start looking at tinkering with the machinery, and I think it's a valid policy discussion that needs to be held. But tonight's motion is on term limits, and we can always agendize those other items later, and certainly willing to help in whatever way we can.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor, and I think, and a second, and we've had discussion, so I'm ready to call for the question. Would you please read the motion to begin with?
It's a maximum of 12 years.
Okay, and what's the rest?
That takes care of the rest.
Okay, so this, and it provides the.
Staff is gonna
staff
work on
is gonna
bringing a
working,
measure back.
a measure back, right? Okay.
Right.
Just wanted, okay, any
Bergman?
question? Okay, Bergman?
Yes.
Jeff Rivero?
You know, tonight I heard that 30 people sent in an email about this proposal. Unfortunately, just a few months ago on our 218, there was 70 to 80 people that wrote in and voted no. I wish those people would have been listened to just as much as the 30 people who sent the emails in about that.
Thank
So
you.
I'm voting no.
No? Okay.
Joe Rivero?
Well, as Lyndon B. Johnson said, I stick with that when local authorities try to take something away from you. So I vote a resounding no, and God with a capital G bless America and everybody in it.
Mooningham?
Yes.
Fall?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Okay, item number 9. Let's see, is that right? 9, establishing a policy on the use of electronic devices by the city council members during the city council meeting of the city council. And we are going to have our city attorney present this.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, I participated in a city attorney's conference not too long ago, and at which the topic of with the advance in technology, and I noticed that a lot of us, and myself included, will get text messages or even telephone calls during meetings, and I see out in the audience everybody's accessing their mobile devices. You know, last night I got off a plane, and as soon as we landed, you could see the whole plane light up with these things, because we could now use these devices that we've been deprived of for a whole 2 hours. And it was just astounding to see how many people were accessing their phones. It is a reality that cellular phones and everything that they bring with them, their little mini computers, allow us to have access to our elected officials from home, watching this meeting. A member of the public can participate in this meeting without anybody knowing who they are or what they're saying. Imagine if you're an applicant for a permit, standing at that podium and making your case, and behind you, unbeknownst to you, members of the public or people who are interested, maybe opposed to your application, are texting their elected officials right up here. And it's not part of the public record, and when the city's asked to produce it in a challenge, a legal challenge, we have no way of knowing who sent that message, whether it was replied to, or whether it had any influence on the decision made by the city council. So there's a hearing and a meeting that occurs within a meeting, and it's happening right now that we don't know about. And it raises a lot of legal issues that city attorneys and cities across the state are dealing with. It's not my intent to try to limit people's First Amendment rights. It's not my intent to try to limit the right of city council members to tell their spouses when this meeting's going to end, hopefully, and when they're going to go home, or to remember to pick up milk on the way home, or whatever it is we get communications from during a meeting. But just to develop a written policy, my understanding is that a lot of cities are working on a model policy. Maybe we can wait until that happens, if it happens soon, for the use of cellular devices and telecommunications during electronic devices during city council meetings. Because, again, there are concerns about public records and concerns about due process of law. And so it's my recommendation that we prepare a policy that discusses the parameters under which we can use these devices during council meetings. Again, not to prevent you from taking important text messages or calls from home or personal situations, but rather to prevent the undue influence of those in the public or in the audience who don't want to stand up at that podium and identify themselves, but are more than willing to send text messages during a meeting. So that's my recommendation, that we look for a model policy first, and failing that we come up with our own policy.
I'd like to move that we look for a model policy or a defined parameters of the use of the electronic devices during council meetings. We'll give that direction to our city attorney to come up with a policy, so that and then we can then, as a council, review it, see if it meets our needs, or see if it goes over, but at least we would have something to work from. That's my motion, and Councilman Jeff Rivero.
I was going to ask Mr. Terpstra. I've been to 2 board meetings. Both of them had electronics going on at it. In fact, both of them, the whole board had it. In fact, one of them, 2 board members were not at the meeting, but electronically they posted their votes and communicated with the board. What you're looking at is keeping something that like that capability for the city.
Absolutely. When those communications and when we use electronic devices like this to promote transparency and to promote participation in a meeting, yeah, absolutely. If everybody's text messages could be broadcasted up there for everybody to see, somebody out in the public, somebody at home, sitting at home, maybe they're disabled, can't come to a meeting. But if their communications could be posted so that everybody could see them, I don't have a problem with that. I think we need to promote that. We need to promote, but more important than anything else, we need to promote and maintain transparency in government. And that's really what the goal of any policy that we would come up with would be. I don't want to overreach with this. I just want to be proactive, and I want to make sure that we protect the rights of the people who are here and who aren't here.
And the second part of that question would be to city manager, because I know Councilman Bergman talked about going paperless. So can you check in to see what the savings would be if we went paperless?
Sure.
Thank you.
Councilman Joe Rivero, we have a motion on the floor. We do not have a second.
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Bergman can second it. Okay. No, I agree with you. I think we do need to have a policy. I personally don't think that people should be receiving text up on the council. I think there has been, I've read about issues in the law that stated that people got in trouble because they were talking about the issue amongst themselves. And so I'm all for you coming back with something and eliminating or limiting text by council members.
Thank you. Councilman Larry Bergman.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just going to bring up the issue Councilman Jeff Rivero brought up about the possible going paperless. I know Gina is working on it and getting the numbers together. I just wanted to bring that up, and just we need to be cautious about that when we're looking at a model.
Right. Okay, any further? We'll move the call for the question.
Bergman,
Yes.
Jeff Rivero,
Yes.
Mooneyham,
I have a few follow-up questions on this when it's brought back, but for right now, yes.
Joe Rivero,
Yes.
Fall,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, we're going to have a short recess.
Phase one? Oh, the one that was approved tonight? Okay, well, she sent a sign-in sheet, and I didn't do it because last time she did that, we had it covered, so I didn't do it. Do I need to bring that out here? And Sammy didn't say anything. I don't know if it's a requirement. I guess I should ask, right? Right. Yeah. Yeah. Just leave it right here.
Well, let's see. Who do you think I want? Yeah, and that house was empty for 2.5 years.
Have to get.
We couldn't believe the death. Hi, man. I bought the chip shredder.
Got everybody?
Is this?
Yes. Okay, let's go. Okay, we'll call the meeting back to order at 7:26, and we are on item number reports and presentations from staff. And our first report, verbal review of the fire department's activities and projects for the month of April 2014. Okay, Fire Battalion Chief Pimentel.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members, residents of the city of Atwater. Your fire department, the month of April, ran 5 structure fires, 8 other fires, 13 vehicle accidents, 201 medical aids, 3 hazardous condition calls, and 17 public assist, coming to a total of 247 calls for the month of April. We also conducted 5 hydrant inspections, 2 public education events, 78 business inspections, 4 training sessions, and for the weed abatements that we got going, we did 160 weed abatements for the month of April.
Good.
If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Any questions of the chief? Councilman Jeff Rivero.
On the weed abatement,
Yes,
how
sir.
was your feeling on, will we be in good shape by July 4th?
Actually, we started going out. I think we've got a majority of our abatements done in April, getting the information out to the public. We've taken photographs of the properties and gotten them their information. So it looks like they're moving forward and they're making a lot of calls. The guy's been answering calls constantly throughout the last couple of weeks since they've been since the residents have been notified. So it's looking good, looking real good.
All right, thank you, and also I'd like to thank you on behalf of the young lady in the back, as Ms. Fall would say, on your services when she needed you. We appreciate your service to all the citizens in Atwater when they have a 911 call for medical.
Our individuals at the station are excited, and thank you very much for coming up forward. I know that our guys there at the station strive to provide the best service possible for the city of Atwater.
And may I make one reminder that even if you call once, don't be afraid to call a second and a third time, because sometimes us senior citizens, we have a tendency to fall, and then we get back up, and you get us back up again, and then we go down again. So I want to let the public know that there is no limit to the number of times. If you're a person and have fallen, please, call again. Don't, just because they came once, don't be too proud to have them come again if need be, because we just have a tremendous public safety group. That's our whole program. That's why people live in the city of Atwater, is for our public safety. And we do thank you again, Chief. Sorry.
Thank you very much.
Okay, here comes the other half of public safety, and that is Lieutenant Joseph.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. For the activities for the month of April 2014, our units still work the traffic details, our units still work the graffiti details, and as well as our narcotic details. A couple notable incidences we have, are 3 of them actually. We had a subject that was walking down the street over by the Olive area. As he was walking, someone approached him, asked him for some narcotics. At that time, he stated he didn't have any narcotics, nothing to purchase, and he was assaulted. And he was rushed to the hospital. Detectives are still working that investigation. We also had a subject that was in Secretariat and Determined area, or Bellevue area. He was bothering females as they were in the area. Officers approached him. He became combative, and he was taken into custody for obstructing a police officer. We also had our graffiti team that Chief Petro again allowed us to put together. They went out and served a good search warrant on a residence nearby and made an eventual arrest on a known person that committed many acts of graffiti in the city of Atwater, and he was taken into custody, and we were lucky on that. Calls for service was 1,857. We had 0 homicides. Citations, we had 202. The arrests were 149. Traffic collisions were 38. Assaults were 22, burglaries were 17, assault with deadly weapons were 2, DUI arrests were 3, and vehicle thefts were 9. Also, for this month, we selected our Officer of the Year. Next session, you're going to provide him with something. He was Officer Jose Torres. He's a good police officer. He was voted by his peers as Officer of the Year, and we're very fortunate to have him here in the city of Atwater. And also, you guys are going to get next time, for next month, we are narcotics unit in conjunction with the Merced County Narcotic Task Force and everything else did a major hit. I'm sure you guys are all aware of it. It's been in the paper and stuff, so they're part of that crew. 2 members from our unit were part of that team. And that is it.
Any questions of Lieutenant Joseph? Again, we want to thank you and thank you did not mention, Lieutenant Joseph, about the little incident of closing the entire side of the west side of the city of Atwater.
Because that happened this month, though. I'll do it next month.
Oh, that's next month.
You want me to mention it now? It's up to you.
Good job. Thank
Keep
you.
everybody in suspense. Thank you.
Yes. Pardon me, Councilman Jeff Rivero, do you have a question of Lieutenant Joseph before he goes off the?
Just going to let the lieutenant know that our citizens appreciate you.
Thank you, sir.
Also responding to 911 calls for medical, and we appreciate everything you guys do.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, City Manager, Police Chief Petro.
Lieutenant Joseph.
Yes, sir.
It's been mentioned numerous times in this open council meeting that our response time is not 90 seconds or less. What is our response time to a priority 1 call?
Average time less than 2 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 12, Public Works Activities, Projects, Filling Potholes, and that would be Director Ferretta.
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, I'm pleased to give you the project activity report for the Public Works Department for the month of April 2014. In the Streets and Buildings Division, we repainted 18 signal light heads. We utilized 400 pounds of asphalt patching material to ramp sidewalks around the Blossom Museum. The group in streets utilized 1,700 pounds of asphalt patching material to fill potholes at various locations throughout the city. They're listed in the report. Repaired 7 non-functioning street lights. Pruned 62 street trees to provide clearance for street sweeping throughout the city. Replaced the traffic detection camera at the signal light at Juniper Avenue and Winton Way. That particular intersection doesn't have what they call a system underground to detect the oncoming cars, so there's actually a camera mounted on top of the street light that detects to change. 1920 Redwood Avenue, 2344 Crestview Drive. Some of those replacements are ongoing still, and we have more in several areas of town that I'll report next month. Several maintenance, general maintenance and repairs to city-owned buildings were done as well through the Streets and Buildings Department. Our water division replaced 8 broken residential water lines. They performed 357 commercial water meter readings, performed 166 delinquent water shutoffs. They also replaced all the plumbing with corrosion-resistant fittings to the 3 chlorine injector booster pumps that are used at the well site at USP Atwater. Sewer Division performed chemical and weed abatement at various storm pond stations, sewer stations, water tower, Corporation Yard, and the entrance to the East Manzanita Storm Pond. They replaced the electrical contacts for the pump starters at the Kansas Avenue Sewer Lift Station, repaired the check valve, and upgraded the vacuum system to a sonic start system at the Stone Creek Subdivision Sewer Lift Station. From what I understand, by doing so, this will enable the sewer pumps to stay primed and start quicker, which theoretically will limit the amount of time that our folks have to spend out there in the evenings and weekends to get those pumps up and running when they fail. Work towards repairing a vacuum leak at the American West Subdivision Sewer Lift Station. Even though there is a problem there is 2 pumps. One will go on when the other one fails, so we are still good with what's going on there, but we are still working to repair that issue. Removed and replaced a damaged sewer lateral at 1395 Tamarack. Cleared plug sewer pumps at the sewer lift stations located at USP Atwater and Stone Creek Subdivision. Clean sewer main lines in the Orchard Park subdivision area, as well as in other regular trouble spots within the city. That function is basically sending out the VATCON truck, which is the large truck that has a big vacuum device on it. They go out and periodically clean the lines that they have issues with, just for preventative maintenance to those lines. Our equipment maintenance division, which takes care of the fleet and all the city vehicles, they performed routine service and maintenance on 12 different city vehicles, performed special repairs on 21 different city vehicles. Moving on to our parks division, within our landscape maintenance districts, chemical and mechanical weed abatement was performed within the Atwater South subdivision. That's just south of Avenue 1. Weed abatement and general maintenance to the entrances to the Las Casas subdivision and the Silver Ranch subdivision. In regards to general park maintenance, they conducted scoreboard maintenance, ball field lighting repairs, windscreen repairs, and sprayed foul lines and fence lines at Osborne and Miyake softball fields. And that was in preparation of the softball season that is currently happening at Osborne Park. Assembled and installed 10 new picnic tables for the picnic shelter at Veterans Park. Filled rodent bait stations at the BMX track, Joan Fall Park, and Osborne Park. Also treated the softball fields for gophers over at Osborne Park. Regards to street side maintenance that the Parks Department performed, weed abatement and general maintenance on the north side of East Broadway Avenue from Station Avenue to Amador Terrace. Chemical weed abatement on sidewalk crackweeds at various locations throughout the city. Chemical weed abatement along various bike paths and medians throughout the city. We continued our bi-weekly mowing schedule that we started in the month of March. Conducted 11 major irrigation system repairs at various park sites and roadside landscaped areas. In regards to street tree work, we conducted 4 tree removals, 1 structural pruning, 3 stump removals, 1 insecticide treatment, 1 general inspection, and 1 new tree planting. Lastly, in regards to graffiti abatement, we worked with the city's contractor to abate graffiti, to remove approximately 5,880 square feet of graffiti throughout the town. If you have any questions regarding any of these items or anything else pertaining to public works or parks maintenance, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
Councilman Larry Bergman?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Ferretta, do we take, occasionally, do we take analysis of our water wells and to test the quality?
Mm-hmm.
From what I understand, that's being done every day by one of the individuals in Public Works. He does work part-time. He used to be a full-time employee, but that's what his function is for the city.
Okay. I received an email from an individual who had some questions of the quality of her water. She had it tested herself. Would it be possible to get copies of the analyses that are done, say, over in the area that serves Harbor Drive?
I believe if it's available, I'll ask that question. From what I understand, in June or July, there's a consumer report that comes out, and this is a yearly report that talks about the city's water quality and what's in the water and the various well sites. So I think that report will probably end up answering those same questions. But if there is something in the meantime that I can provide, I certainly will do that.
Thank you. I'd appreciate it.
Sure.
Mr. Ferretta, what about the water schedule? Could you review the days that we're supposed to water and the days that we're not supposed to water? And is the city going to be watering on those particular days also?
To be honest, Mayor, I do not have that information in front of me. Had you asked me ahead of time, I'd probably would have brought a copy of that ordinance, and I just don't want to get it wrong, you know. But but
I
currently.
can pretty well tell you that because of my, that odd numbers, I think we are Sunday, no, we are
See, that's the thing.
Sunday,
is-
Wednesday, and Friday. Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday are the odd ones.
Okay, so even would be Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday.
Saturday,
No
and you don't-
watering on Mondays.
No watering on Monday, right. So,
And preferably no watering between the hours of 10 a.m. and 7
Right.
p.m.
Yep.
So that's kind of what the ordinance states. That actually goes into place on the 28th of this month. In the meantime, we are putting that information in the utility billing newsletter, which should come out next week. And we're also going to try to do some public outreach in other ways. With that water report that I was referring to Councilman Bergman, there's also going to be a separate item going out to, as well as that water report, with the water report stating the regulations and the restrictions that are put forth. So,
thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Okay, we're moving then down to item number 13, and that is Mr. McBride, our Community Development Director.
Thank you.
You're
Good
going to
evening.
make this monkey simple, right, Mr. McBride? I read it and I was a little confused.
I'll make
But
it
the
very-
main thing was that you were able to find some money for us so we can use our money and don't lose any of it, right?
Yes, Mayor, you're correct. I'll try to make it very simple for you tonight. Earlier on your agenda, you had approved a award of a bid for Bellevue Road Improvement Project, and that's $127,510 for that work. And it's for public improvements for pedestrians along Bellevue Road. The council might recall that I came to you some time before. We had an allotment of the Proposition 1B funding, a little bit over $410,000, and we had to develop the projects to spend that money. So one of the projects was for signal work that was going to be done and for railroad work that was going to be done at Atwater Boulevard, Winton Way. And you had money left over of the allotment, and that was to be pledged towards the Bellevue Road project. Tonight you took care of that one, so that's out of the way, taken care of. I have bad news to report to you. The UP Railroad cannot do the work in time, and therefore we have to cancel the work with them, and the money has to be spent by June 30th. So therefore, what I'm suggesting we do tonight is substitute the design and engineering work that's ongoing for two projects, which would still use about $200,000 of the remaining $279,000. That would allow us to keep the money that was pledged for that work, which is from our former bond proceeds of the redevelopment agency, and that can be used later on for the same work that needs to be done in the UP Railroad work. So essentially, you're going to be short. You're going to have about $79,000 or so in unspent funds, but it's better than $279,000 in unspent funds. That seems to be the best way I can get it to you tonight. We can also look at maybe doing some contract amendments with the Bellevue Road project to include a few other areas that would have liked to have done earlier, but we couldn't because we were up against the full match or the full amount of money. And we may look into that. We may be coming. It's simple enough. We're substituting funds to make sure that you spend 100% of the funds that you have to, or as much as we can. And it's very unfortunate the railroad can't do the work by the end of June. So we're trying to work this on the fly and get it going.
Thank you for being so creative. That was what was interesting, and such a short period of time that we have to have it done. And this will include 3rd Street and Broadway, right? That safety pedestrian that you're moving the money around and you're going to be able to do so that the backup water on the sidewalk is a safety hazard, right? So we can cover that.
We're just doing the design and engineering. That's all we're doing.
That's all we're doing
Yes.
there.
Yes.
Okay.
Earlier, you had approved two contracts, one for the Atwater Boulevard Winton Way project, another one for Broadway, and we had pledged to use money that was set aside in your former agency bond funds. We're no longer going to use that. We're going to use Prop 1B, and that way it'll cover the same work, and you can save your money from the agency for later on when we do the actual construction.
questions of Mr. McBride? Councilman Jeff Rivero.
What is the timeline for the Winton Way Atwater Boulevard improvement to be finished?
Well, we're only working on the design, and the design should be done in July. We're taking out the bid from there. You still have to get approval from the state to spend the actual money on the construction. The earliest we can probably get that on is going to be for the ROPS period that starts for January 15.
So the earliest they'd be able to break ground, you're saying,
Is in the spring of 2015.
2015. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions of Mr. McBride? If we have no questions, then we'll entertain a motion. I'll move that we approve staff's recommendation as presented. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Councilman Joe Rivero. Do you have any further discussion? Call for the question.
Joe Rivero? Yes. Mooneyham?
Yes.
Jeff Rivero?
I'll abstain.
Bergman?
Yes.
Fall?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. McBride, for doing all of that last-minute business and saving our money. Okay, we're now at the Councilman Matters. City Council comments and requests for future agenda items. We will start with Councilman Bergman.
Thank you, Mayor. Nothing to report.
Okay. Councilman Joe Rivero.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to begin by also offering my condolences to the Tanzillo family and the Mooneyham family. I wasn't here before to offer the condolences to both of them. Thoughts and prayers are with you all. I'd like to thank the Merced County Merced Kiwanis for hosting, along with the Merced County, the Junior Olympics, the 70th Annual Junior Olympics. They had a very outstanding number of records broken this year. I don't know what it turned out to be, but I think it was over 8 that were being broken, and usually you don't see that happen very often. So there's a lot of fine athletes out there. I also want to thank the Merced County officer who's off duty that handled a situation that could have gotten worse. I'm there with students, and your number one priority is making sure students are protected, and there's an off-duty officer that handled the situation. So I want to thank the Merced County officer who handled that, and the Merced City Police that responded to keep the situation under control. Also, Brian Bin from Merced County that's heads this, and he did an outstanding job along with all of his volunteers, and our own Dan Barton also helped him, and so we have a good relationship with the county, that he comes here and helps us with the city with their track meets, and we helped him. So I want to thank them all for all that they do for our children.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Jeff Rivero.
Yes, I was going to remind everybody the Audit and Finance Committee meeting will be here May 26th at 3:30 p.m. in the chambers. So if you can make it, we'd love to have you. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Mooneyham.
Thank you, Mayor. Lieutenant Joseph, great job with the freeway closure. I think your men acted in an exemplary fashion, and they're to be commended on that. And also to Director Ferretta, I have to tell you that was one of the best staff reports I've seen. Very, very thorough. I appreciate it, and pass that along to your guys, okay? Thank you.
Okay, Councilman Jeff Rivero.
I wanted to make a correction. Thank you, Mr. Bergman, that it's May 27th because of Memorial Day.
Yes.
So it's May 27th. It's on Tuesday. Normally it would be the Monday, but.
The next council meetings, yes.
Our Audit and Finance.
Oh, Audit and Finance, yes, sir.
Thank you.
That's our council meeting is also on the 27th.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, first of all, I'd like to congratulate the Atwater High School baseball team. They made the playoffs, and they haven't made the playoffs since 2001. So not only did they win the Franny Onito Lions Easter baseball tournament, they also won they're in the playoffs, so we hope to honor them at our next meeting, the players. So the next thing I want to thank is the Planning Commission. Job well done on the sign ordinance, and I think it's ready for us to come back to, it is not, okay. Okay, I got the, okay, that it's not ready for us yet. But anyway, I was impressed with the Chamber of Commerce, and I was impressed with how it was a great Planning Commission meeting, and so job well done on that. And I have to say one thing about it. We missed a thing. Okay, Domino's, they had a mannequin out the other day for their sign. I thought that was very interesting for the sign ordinance. So anyway, we're still working on the sign ordinance, but we're getting close, and that was a great public hearing. I appreciated that. And with that, the next city council meeting will be on May 27th, and we have open cockpit day on May 25th. So we wish you all a happy Memorial Day, and we will see you on the 27th. Meeting adjourned. I have. Where did I have this?
Do you have a final resolution?
And naturally I can't. What? Would be.